Hey, Tim Frisch with A Frisch Perspective here. Pastor John MacArthur and Grace Community Church have a hearing coming up this Friday, which I talked about recently. Also, people have been wanting to know concerning that situation, how the outbreak situation is actually going. They had 3 cases that were reported at their church. Last I heard, someone had said they had maybe 5 cases altogether that have been reported with the coronavirus at their church. So to me, by the dictionary definition of outbreak, it doesn't sound like much of an outbreak, and I've talked about that before. But just to give an update on that situation, I was looking online and I did find an article from the LA Times, and it says here, LA megachurch pastor mocks pandemic health orders even as church members fall ill. And this is from November 8th, so it was the other day. And as you can tell from the title, the LA Times tends to give a more negative picture of Pastor John MacArthur and the way that he's approaching this situation. It says that he mocks the pandemic health orders even as church members fall ill. And so they're making it look like he's mocking the situation while they have a real problem. But as you look at this article, it doesn't sound like there's been more of a significant outbreak. It doesn't sound like more numbers have been reported. But let's read some of it here. There is no pandemic. The words from the white-haired pastor echoed inside the cavernous megachurch in Los Angeles. It was August 30th, only 18 days after LA County public health officials had demanded that Grace Community Church stop holding indoor services. But the pastor, 81-year-old John MacArthur, had kept the doors open, delivering defiance from his pulpit every Sunday. County health inspectors had tried to enter the church in previous weeks, but were blocked by security guards. "We do not consent to a search or visit," a security guard told the inspectors, reading from a prepared statement in early August. "This is a Jesus Life Matters protest." If the inspectors had been allowed inside, they would have seen thousands of congregants sitting side by side, most without masks. They hugged and sang hymns and shook hands and erupted in applause during MacArthur's sermon. When the offering plate came around, the congregants gave $40,046, almost 6 times more than the previous Sunday, according to the church bulletins. This picture of worship in the time of the coronavirus has emerged as a seemingly intractable legal and emotional drama that turns on sharply differing visions of safe behavior during a pandemic. Most religious institutions have been following public health rules, turning to live streams, outdoor services, and drive-through events, but a handful have objected, arguing that the government doesn't have the authority to restrict their prayer practices. Few churches have captured a bigger spotlight for their defiance than the megachurch in Sun Valley. The congregation has not only continued services, but has also questioned the existence of the coronavirus. There's another virus loose in the world, and it's the virus of deception, MacArthur told the congregation in his August 30th sermon. And the one who's behind the virus of deception is the arch-deceiver Satan himself. Throughout the summer, MacArthur repeatedly insisted no one from the church had contracted the coronavirus or been hospitalized with COVID-19, yet congregants have indeed been stricken and hospitalized with COVID-19, according to MacArthur's own account in a church interview in April. They included a young couple who were hospitalized and a visiting pastor who died of the disease shortly after attending a church conference in March. County health officials launched an outbreak investigation at the church in October after 3 other people contracted the coronavirus. Church officials, in a statement released last month, dismissed the investigation, saying it involves 3 part-time employees who have not been hospitalized. 3 among 7,000 congregants is not an outbreak, they said, and they encouraged worshipers to keep attending services. "We are going to meet for worship this Sunday to celebrate the Lord's table together," reads the statement. As of Sunday, the church had 5 confirmed cases. So the article goes on. I will stop reading there, but as you can see, it says that there have been 5 confirmed cases as of now. From my perspective, I think this article is definitely biased. They seem bothered by the attitude that MacArthur has toward the pandemic. I can understand people that take the pandemic really seriously and think it's a huge risk to our health and safety. I could see them having a problem with some of the things MacArthur has said. However, I think it's overstating it to say that he doesn't take it seriously, and I think they've actually misread and haven't been completely fair with how they've portrayed some of what he has said. On the other hand, MacArthur also is biased sometimes in how he presents the information. I can understand that. But to say that MacArthur and the church are not taking the disease seriously or saying that it doesn't exist, I really think that's an overstatement. I think that the church actually has been taking some precautions or allowing individuals to take precautions as they see fit. And so if people want to meet outside, if they want to wear masks, they can do what they feel is best for them personally for their protection and health. And one of the false dichotomies here is that if you don't agree with all of the government restrictions, then you are not taking the disease seriously. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think the question is, what do you think are the right precautions, and do you think the government has the right to step in and tell us what to do, especially when it comes to things like holding church services? So that's really what's at issue here for Pastor John MacArthur and Grace Community Church, as I've talked about quite a bit. But really what I wanted to point out is that you can see some bias from the media, especially the LA Times here, in the way that they're presenting John MacArthur and his situation. And one of the ways that that bias comes out is how they're talking about an outbreak at the church. And really the sense that I get is it's almost like some people want there to be a serious situation at Grace Community Church. And I think that's sad. We shouldn't want bad things to happen. I understand people can be upset, though, because of the attitude that MacArthur and people at that church might be portraying. But again, I think it's an overstatement to say they're not taking it seriously. They're just taking issue with how the government is trying to handle the situation. So that's the latest update that I have. As I said, this Friday, Friday the 13th, MacArthur Grace Community Church is going to have a full court hearing on their situation. Hopefully we'll know either later on Friday or sometime over the weekend what the outcome of that is. I will report on that as soon as I have that information. But thank you so much for listening to reports like this and hearing me out on some of my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Just please try to keep your comments positive and helpful to discussion. But thank you as always for listening to what I have to say from A Frisch Perspective.